So let's get started. I know people will be signing on in the next few minutes, but I just wanted to get started so we have time to cover everything. So I'm joined today by two of my great friends and colleagues, Ernie Schmidt from Palo Alto, California.
Hi, everyone.
And Ken Urie from Seattle area.
Hey there. Glad to be here, guys.
And I'm signing in from Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're having an unusually nice sunny day. So why don't we get started, guys, on our presentation. And as I said, we will answer questions at the end of the presentation. I'll have plenty of time for that. But we want to start off just giving you a little background of who we are, the three of us, if you don't know us, and some of the things we've accomplished in our group practice experiences. All of us have had annual group practice revenue over $2 million. And I happen to think Ken's going to blow by that next number this year pretty easily, right, Ken?
Yep.
It looks like we're on track for that, yes.
Three, yeah. We all have more than one practice location. So we've expanded not only to a group practice, but multiple locations. We all have hired and maintained a staff of over 20 clinical therapists in our group practices. We've all reduced our therapy hours significantly. In Ken's case, he's been at 0 for, I believe, about 6 years. Ernie's fluctuating between 1 and 3. I don't know why. And I'm still seeing about 8 or 10 a week because I enjoy doing it. Another thing we've accomplished is a really nice balance between work and home. We all experienced when we started out, we put in a lot of time and energy. And then as we've learned to be more efficient and delegate, we've been able to create a lot more free time. And best of all, we've been able to save money for our children's college and our retirement, which is a struggle for a lot of psychotherapists in private practice. And I'm happy to report, guys, that last month I made my last tuition payment for all 3 children's college, and they all graduated with 0 debt. So
that's
all
awesome,
that, thanks to group practice, so I'm very grateful.
Right. That's fantastic, Joe. Congratulations. Yeah.
I thought it's also worth mentioning just the variety of our practices a little bit too. I mean, Joe and Ken, you guys are predominantly insurance-based.
Yes.
And then I'm more private pay, predominantly, probably 95% private pay. So I think that's important. People have different perspectives of how you can run.
And I also think it's good to mention that, you know, we're all in very therapist-saturated areas, probably Ernie more than even Ken, and I'm probably number 3 in that. But we're all in, you know, major urban areas that have a lot of therapists and a lot of competition, and we've been able to succeed at this level despite that competition.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to remember that any success that we have gained over the years has really not happened overnight. Right. You know, where we're at now has happened really because of just pursuing, you know, one action item after the next in line with the goal. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Great. All right. Next slide, Ken.
Oops. Oh, yeah.
Ken, we can't forget vacations.
We can't. There it is. Yeah.
Right. We all take a lot more vacations. I know certainly I do than I used to when I was starting my group practice. So that's been a really nice thing to be able to have the business run by itself and you don't have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want to talk about just something that we know, what we bring to the table. And I think the viewers that are watching today too, most of you, if you're interested in our group practice success program, already have a group practice. And so you know that group practice is very different than solo practice. So a lot of us started out, we're just solo practitioners kind of building it, but we're realizing very quickly that you need a lot of support and you need guidance to really look at things differently than you did when you were solo. Also, if you've been doing this, you know, not only is it way more complicated in terms of the features you have to understand, the depth of knowledge you have to have, but the emotional impact. We recently did a podcast and we just talked about, like, I think I said something like 85% of this is the emotional, you know, strain and just coping with that. So not only do we know that because we do this for a living, all 3 of us, you know, run these things day in and day out. But also we hear this from our people that we coach and other group practice owners that we've consulted with. So it also just requires, you know, more support and more technical knowledge. So we know that just based on our own experience.
And really, you know, the complicated nature of it is we were not prepared for that. We didn't get that in our schooling, as we learned how to be a therapist. And we certainly didn't, whatever preparation we did for having a solo practice, that helps us somewhat to move to a group practice success, but we need a lot more support to deal with all the complications that are a part of running a successful group practice.
Yeah. And we'll see some questions pop in, which is totally great. We'll try to get to those at the end. And if we can't cover them all, we'll try to maybe send them out in the email afterwards to answer some of those questions about things that you have that come up. So other things that we hear quite a bit with group practice owners, and no matter kind of where you are in the stage, maybe towards the end, not so much, but what have I gotten myself into? Realizing how complex this is. And I mean, almost every day I kind of feel like, okay, I'm just getting out of the weeds, but then I realize, oh man, a whole nother system kind of broke. So that's just a common thing that you'll have, especially when you're more of like a moderate or beginner in the group practice, working way too many hours. So you think it's all about passive income, but then you realize, oh man, you're doing something wrong because you're working now more than you did as a solo practitioner, and then there's not enough profit. The profit's not coming in the way that you wanted. The common thing we're hearing now is I can't find good therapists. So as we're realizing how popular group practices are becoming, then the competition for your therapist is growing. So you have to really get better at finding therapists, retaining therapists, and providing an awesome culture that we'll talk more about. And then this is back to the emotional piece, the feeling overwhelmed. I really can't, this is a personal thing, but I can't, say that strong enough, just how much of an emotional roller coaster group practice can be, and being an employer and a small business owner, and also, a husband and a father. So there's all these things that we have to manage. And these are one of the reasons that we're excited to do this presentation today, is not only to give you these 5 keys and talk about that a little bit, but we're also very passionate about coaching. We're all therapists too, so we love the coaching aspect and teaching you guys about our program, Group Practice Success, that we'll cover heavier at the end. So we'll give you some good content, and then we'll really tell you why we're so passionate about the program we're going to put on. And I don't know, I'm going to say it. It is a little hard for us to market it because we don't want to just be overly selling, but we really believe in what we've developed, and we know how powerful this support is. And we really we know how amazing this program can be. So we'll share more about that, but that's part of the passion piece.
Yeah, and group practice development and design is hard stuff. We've talked about, we should put it on a mug. What have I gotten myself into? It sounds so great, all the benefits and all the successes that can come from it. But I tell you, this is hard work to put this together. So you have to, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to be a person who really shows perseverance, great ambition, a sense of hope about what can be accomplished for you in spite of what's showing up for you today. And just a sense of optimism through it, because all of these things are real challenges. And so I think it takes a special person in that way, right? To really design what they want and keep after it in order to get the success that they're really going for.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so today's main topic is the 5 keys to phenomenal group practice success. And we've developed this. We did this a long time ago, and we're doing it again with even more knowledge now that we've actually had the Group Practice Success program running for the past 2 years, and we're launching it again. So we'll get into the 5 keys and talk more about that. Ken, we're going to have you start off with the vision.
Yeah. So, of course, whenever you start a new venture in your life, you want to start out with what it is that you want. What is your ideal for whatever it is that you're creating? Everything in this world is created twice. If you look around you in your room right now, everything started as an idea before it showed up in some sort of physical manifest form, right? You had the idea, there was an idea for the computer that you're looking at right now that started way before that computer was developed. If there's a chair in the room, there's a design of that chair. If there's a pillow on it, there's a design and the fabric that was going to be used. Whatever it is, there was an idea held in mind, and then there was creativity that followed that and action steps that really brought that into being so it shows up. So we know that in the world, everything's created twice, first in the form of a vision, and then it comes out into the realistic time, space, reality vision of what it is in our world. And so for our group practices, it's the same thing. We want to create a practice that is really ideal to the way that we would like to serve the world, serve the people that we employ, and serve the business and the lifestyle that we want to have as a result of that. So we want to make sure that you really take time to create the vision for what you want. recently someone shared with me the quote by Frederick Buechner that our vocation is where our deep gladness meets the world's deepest needs. And I love that because it's the thing that really makes us spark and have joy that really also meets the needs of the world. And so you want to start with your vision and however that shows up for you as a group practice. And so you want to develop your mission and your values. And for us, it was really just being able to offer healing, hope, and possibility to move people from a place of pain into a place of healing for that. So that maybe they went from a place of despair into a place of being hopeful and optimistic about something that can change in their life, and that people who come into our practice have a sense of possibility beyond what they came in with as well. So you want to think about those ideas that you want to be generating in your practice and the therapy that's happening in your practice. And we want to have that provided through mental health services and through seeing the values, strengths, and the resources of every client that we see. So when you have a mission and vision like that, you can essentially just come back around all the time as your North Star to what is it that I'm doing. You may have an office build out or decor or business system or billing system or the way you do your scheduling and your processing. All of that needs to happen and your systems need to be developed. But they all need to be grounded and anchored in that big mission and that values to bring it back all the time about why in the world am I doing this in the first place? And that will help you get through the work every day. You also want to think about if you want to develop a specialization for your practice, whether that be trauma focused or relationship focused, or Ernie, you promote CBT as your primary focus for your group. Whether that be DBT, we know a group practice owner who does DBT for their whole group. What other specializations can you guys think of that?
Like child and family,
yes.
Anxiety. What are some other popular ones?
Yeah, those are common ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can focus on a specialization and then market that to the community. And you could also, if you want to be generalist as well, and then have specializations within the group with the therapists that are offering those, you can do that as well. So you can have your group, and then within that, people know you have a child and family therapist, or you have someone who works with trauma, or that you have someone who does EMDR. So that's something to think about too, about what you really get lit up about offering your community. And of course, you want to pursue excellence and crush limiting beliefs. The landscape for group practices is so different than it was 10 years ago and even 5 years ago. And what you always want to make sure you're doing is pursue excellence, because you may feel like there's not room for one more group practice, but I'm going to suggest that there's always room for the best. If you bring and you create something that's the best in your community because it's according to the values that you want to make sure provide, you're solving a real problem for the people of your community you're going to serve and for the therapists and the admin staff you're going to bring on board, you're solving a real problem for them in a way that just really demonstrates excellence. There is a place for you in the landscape for you to do that as well. So you want to pursue that excellence, and you want to crush your limiting beliefs that make you think that it's not possible. Anytime we set a big goal for ourselves, we're going to have rush in right behind it all the reasons why we think it's not going to work, all the reasons why we think that's just not going to show up in our life in the way that we hope it to be. But really, if you're thinking those doubtful thoughts, it's just a really good indicator that you probably stepped out ahead of where your comfort zone is. So you want to look at those limiting beliefs, and you're just going to crush them on a daily basis by taking daily action toward your vision.
I'll probably say more about this later, but I think it's an important point. Not only do you have to do things internally to crush your limiting beliefs, but being part of a group and seeing people that are doing things you never thought possible. And that's one of the reasons why I admire, Joe and Ken so much, because I get to the crush limiting beliefs by watching Ken crush beliefs. So I just want to put another plug in for that. It's been an amazing piece.
Yeah, we really help each other out with that, don't we?
Right. Yeah. I want to follow up too, Ernie. I mean, when we all got together, excuse me, I have a dog barking. When we all got together, the idea of $1 million revenue, I thought was kind of a pipe dream, and it was kind of hard to imagine. And now we know so many people that are over $1 million in revenue. It almost seems kind of commonplace, even though it's hard to believe I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But it just, the support of other people who are at the top of their game and can point out your own limiting beliefs and can help you see the vision for something greater really brings the whole group at a much higher level. So
for sure, the modeling and just the observation, and yeah, right. I agree.
You can create far more than you think you can. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Joe, this is yours.
Okay, so number 2 in our keys to group practice success is designing the solid foundation. And we already talked a little bit about the internal mind shifts of your mindset and attitudes, about believing that you can do this, and seeing where some of your beliefs might be irrational and limiting you, and creating the right attitude for success. And then it's really about the team. You know, I remember Jack Welch, who was the CEO of GE, one successful guy with a thick Boston accent, but he always used to say, the more successful you are, the more help you need. And I always remember that. And the idea is that, yeah, you can see your 20, 30 clients a week, and then you keep getting referrals. And most of you who've started group practice know that you start to find people who share your vision and share your values. And if you can make that compelling enough, they're going to be drawn to you. And you're going to be able to develop a real solid team who shares your vision for service in the world. And then you'll find that you need admin staff to help support the whole project. And building admin staff and a really solid admin team, the 3 of us have found is really crucial. That really is the foundation for everything, to create systems and to delegate as much as you can of the things that you don't need to be doing, so you can be available for the higher order thinking of growing the practice further. And building a team culture that is not about workaholism, but it's about positive connections, healthy relationships, and self-care. We want to create an attitude in the team that people take care of themselves, they get exercise, they sleep enough, they have healthy relationships, and they have a balance between work and home. And lastly, to create duplicatable systems that run smoothly, we recommend everybody read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. If you haven't read that, it's a great example of how you can take a skill that you have and systematize it so that it can be expanded and scalable. But it's a really important part of designing that foundation for future growth.
Yeah, and people do this, right? We see a lot of group practice owners that first come into our program, and they're pretty successful, but they're not doing this well. And so their life is hell. Like they really don't have that peace of mind because they haven't developed the systems. They haven't developed that foundation. So I think that's also important. You can do it either way, but your life balance goals are going to be out of whack, and you're not going to get that peace of mind that you're hoping group practice would bring you. So, okay, so some other things I want to talk about. This is a little bit on the same line, this idea of like learning the right way to do things. So, you know, I'm a very avid reader about business and that kind of stuff, but I just am a big believer of trying to learn what to do right the first time. Trial and error is not horrible, but it sure is time consuming, and it takes a lot of your energy and the emotional pain. So that's another thing that I just feel like, you know, following people that have done this, other group practice owners that have done this, like that is so important, not just the books, but really seeing the real life stuff. So for instance, like with recruiting and hiring, we know that's a common problem now. When you're a group practice owner and you're growing pretty rapidly, now you have your referrals, but you don't have the therapist. So really figuring out how to market properly for therapists and then systematizing that. So that's been a really big goal of mine lately, is just really working hard on making that system, you know, run just like clockwork. So you have that running well. Not only that you're getting a lot of applicants, but that you're able to kind of go through them and really pick the ones that are the right fit for your culture. We don't want anybody to be desperate or you're just hiring for the bottom line. You really want to be developing a system that brings in the right culture. You want to build something that you love, because you're going to be doing this, you know, a lot of work, and it's a lot of passion. We talked about the emotional state. So you want to do this well, and you want to do it with the right frame of mind, and leaning on people who have done this before to kind of tell you, okay, this is sort of the right way to do it, and here's what I wouldn't suggest, or here's the mistakes I've made. That's a thing that you want to look out for. The other big piece is the compensation model. So to give you guys some real specifics here, I mean, a lot of group practices, to be honest, they end up paying too much. And we don't mean that in a way that we want anybody to be cheap or to devalue therapists. We're therapists here. We know how hard the work is. We know how valuable the work is. But when I say pay too much, it means the business can't sustain it. and you can't sustain it. So we've also seen group practice owners who, the revenue may be over $1 million, but they're not making any money. I mean, so there's some real problem there. Those therapists won't have a job much longer.
Or we're losing money, right? And then it undermines the whole thing, the whole reason you put it together, and you can't serve the community very well or the therapist with that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that you have to look at is, can you adjust your pay? And it may be a limiting belief that no, you can't, but we've seen it. We've talked to, just as an example, one of our first years of GPS, which is our group practice success program. We had a conversation with one of our members about adjusting the pay. He really took to the idea. He saw the value in it. He was realizing it wasn't sustainable. He made that adjustment in one conversation, and that switch from a crazy percentage to a reasonable percentage all of a sudden brought him probably $100,000 more in a year, and his profit percentage cranked up. So there's things like that all of a sudden somebody kind of tells you that has that experience. You really can make those dramatic changes that can have a huge impact. So, being thoughtful about that, to me, that's the biggest expense we have, right, is our therapist. So you have to be thoughtful about how you pay them, and that's sustainable, and you want to be generous. I mean, you want to pay them well for the market, because if you pay them too little, you're not going to have the practice that you desire or the longevity that you desire. So that's important too. All right.
We're good. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, the other piece, we this is another podcast we did, and I'm a total maniac when it comes to tracking. So Joe wanted me to do a little slide on tracking. Let's go to the next slide, Ken, and I'll.
Okay. Yeah.
We developed this group practice success tracking sheet that every member gets when they join our program, and it's cool. Joe's super enthusiastic about it. I love it, but since I was sort of involved in creating it, I want to be a little more humble about it. But it's really neat. We get to look at, these are just 3 of the metrics, but every month we're putting in our metrics. We're tracking how many intakes, how many sessions. And then the cool thing about it is we get to see, year over year what our growth is. And so we have this visual component. We have other metrics on here that we track as well, but it's just a vital thing to be doing when you become a more seasoned group practice owner. You can't be winging it. You can, but you won't be successful, and you'll be struggling, and your emotional ups and downs are going to be way worse than they already are. So I thought it'd be nice to kind of show you guys a little bit of a screenshot of this, kind of a pretty graph and something you can make your own. You can do it more bare bones, but this is just an example of what we do.
Thinking about what you guys are talking about building a solid foundation, I think about that Henry David Thoreau quote about, go ahead and build your castles in the sky. That's where they belong. But now go put the foundations beneath them, right? Because we can have our big dream and our ideas, and that's how beautiful it is with this, the way the castle looks. But I tell you, that castle has to be held up by something that's going to keep it sustained over time. And this is what you really want to do. What we've been talking about is build those foundations in a really solid way.
Yeah. All right. This is, I think this is you, Ken.
Yeah, and then we just take daily action in the direction of building that castle. Recently seeing Notre Dame, it was so sad to see that burned down. Right, that great cathedral that we've all enjoyed seeing over time. They are going to build that back, aren't they? And they're going to rebuild it, and it's going to be beautiful again. And they're going to do that one step at a time. They're going to just get after it. They have the vision. They have the goal about what that's going to look like, and they're going to get after it with daily action. We do the same thing with our practice. We want to make sure that we're working on our business and not just in our business. And that was coined by Gerber in the E-Myth. And it's just so important because as therapists, when you're doing the work of therapy, you think that's the work that's going to provide the service I want to and generate the income we need to in order to have the living that works for us. But you really need to, if you're going to develop a group practice, you want to make sure you carve out time to work on the group practice and what that will likely mean and it has meant this for every one of us as we've grown in our group practice. It means leaving a check on the table today, metaphorically and maybe literally, to potentially cash a bigger check into the future that really represents your dream and your ideal and moving forward, right? We've all had that struggle of like, if I give up these sessions, that means I'm going to reduce my income and I can't have that. But I have this dream for this group practice too that could actually do this exponentially bigger thing for everyone involved. You want to make sure that you actually bravely say, you know what, I'm not going to see clients on Tuesdays, or I'm going to carve out this time in the morning on these 3 days a week, or reduce my client load by whatever percentage. And we're in conversations with people all the time about this, right? Where we want to reduce in order to do all those things that really move the group practice forward. And you may not be able to, you won't be able to cash that group practice check today because it won't come in. In fact, you might be actually extending yourself, you are, with more risk and maybe more investment, and signing more leases and essentially putting yourself at risk more. But you know that's, you have a solid foundation for where you're going, and that's going to exponentially bring you more as you pursue that, as you work on your business. I know that when I was doing therapy, it was when I was face to face with my clients, as I started building my group practice, I would just start thinking more and more about the things I needed to do for my group practice. And I almost felt like, wow, I'm not paying as good of attention as I used to my clients, and I really need to make that switch, right? And then I made that switch, and other people can sit in the chair and provide that service. So the service is being provided to an exponential greater number of people, and that business is being worked on, not just by me particularly. And of course, we want to have that sense of what we call the drip, drip, drip. One drip doesn't seem like much, but I tell you, if you have a drippy faucet and you put a bucket under it, that's going to be overflowing by morning, right? You want to just make sure that you take one step at a time, knowing, and that's all we can take. We can't get all the way to our big goals. Even any big project has to be project managed, and we need to take one step at a time toward our dream. We talk about getting after the 1% changes. Ernie, you talk a lot about that. Let's improve by 1%. We don't have to improve by 100%, 50%, 20%. Just today, I want to improve by 1%, something that we're doing. I know in my practice, we talk a lot about not necessarily chasing growth, but we're chasing all of our systems and all of our processes and lining up with our values and our mission, that we do that better today than we did yesterday. And as we do that, then growth does happen as a byproduct of that. And that just happens with drip, drip, drip.
Awesome. So Joe, you're the expert when it comes to this time management stuff and life balance. So.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. No, the reason we're including this is, we've all learned that, time management, productivity is a real science and art. And if you don't really understand some of the principles, your life is going to be overwhelmingly stressful. You're not going to sleep. You're going to burn out your family members who don't want to hear about it anymore. And so it's really important to understand the research on time management. As if we had a workshop we did recently when I asked the question, I was doing a presentation on this, and if you have to fill in the blank, I have blank time. And the only people in the room that said plenty were the two guys on this podcast with me, Ernie and Ken. Everybody else said no time, little time, but it was almost everyone said no, no, no. And these are all group practice owners. And so we taught them ways to save at least 2 hours a week. And one of the people in the group 2 weeks later said, I'm saving 6 hours a week by implementing what you just taught me. And it is. There's a real science to it. And also involves technology. There's a lot of ways to use technology now where you can really make your life more efficient. There's one app that we like called Todoist. If you've never used a productivity or task manager, this is a great cross-platform app. It's available on Windows, on Mac, on iPhone, on Android, and then it'll be a great way to organize your time and get your tasks in order. There's a lot more to it, but the point is the research shows that if you are not managing time successfully, it will manage you, and you will feel more depressed. You'll be more hopeless, have more poor relationships, and more medical problems. So it's not something to take lightly, which is why we put it as an integral part of our GPS program.
Yeah, I also want to share, this was, Joe may not say this, he's too humble, but this was probably the highest rated presentation we did at our GPS program last summer. Everybody loved it. So I wanted to put this on the slide so Joe could share a little bit about the wisdom of it. But it really is a big piece about making sure you have to be really, really good at time management when you're running these group practices. And the three of us we spend all the time figuring out how to save time. So something else that we wanted to share with you. So thanks for bringing that up, Joe.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just talk about marketing a little bit, spreading the word. There's a lot to be said about marketing. That's another presentation that I've done in one of our years, and I'll probably do it again maybe this year in San Diego. But it's really, the concept is just making sure you're embracing it. If you haven't embraced it yet and you're building your practice, you're doing well. But the more you grow, the more you have to keep growing your marketing. And sometimes it'll happen just by itself, but you almost always have to be sort of pushing it along. Especially it depends on what pace you want to grow, and not everybody wants to grow crazy. They may just want to be stable and have a good income, but a lot of group practice owners want to see some growth to get to that stability. And so really developing systems to do that, and not being complacent. Like, just because you're good today in referrals doesn't mean you will be tomorrow when you have 4 more therapists you need to fill. So you have to be thinking about that a lot and getting good at it. Unfortunately or fortunately, we can also teach you ways to do it that's not, slimy salesman, but really just being passionate about what you're doing. Back to that, specialization thing Ken talked about. I'm very passionate about evidence-based practice and CBT, so it's easy to sell it because I love it. The other part I want to mention is just being diversified in your marketing. So I think all you guys that are doing group practice know that already, but making sure you don't just get too heavy on AdWords or too heavy on print advertising. You really want to do a combination of things. So if one thing kind of breaks down, you have the others to lean on. I'll leave the last bullet to Joe because he's the expert. Oh, go back, Ken, a little bit. Joe's the expert on
internet. Yeah, and obviously the internet, having a good internet presence for most group practices is very important today. And I did not follow Ernie's advice. I used to have a diversified marketing plan until I had 3 kids in 2 years. And I found I could no longer have time to go out in the community and do lectures and stuff. So I focused my attention in the wee hours of the morning studying the internet, and have been able to get about 85% of my referrals through the internet while sitting on my butt, which worked better for me when I had 3 kids at home. But the point I wanted to make about this is that this is an ever-changing area that you really have to keep up with, and it's an integral part of our program. That I have a monthly newsletter that everybody gets, a 30-page newsletter with all the latest updates. Search engine optimization is getting a lot more challenging because Google is just making a lot fewer spaces available on the first page. And Google AdWords is also getting a lot more challenging because Google's now integrating their artificial intelligence algorithms into all of their AdWords, and they're really pushing these automated bidding strategies on unsuspecting therapists who don't understand what it means, and in many cases are wasting money or paying way too much for their clicks. So it's really important to have a successful group practice that you maintain a good online presence and that you stay up to date with all the changes.
And Joe, you're really the national leader for therapists for internet marketing. And so you really bring a great value to certainly Ernie and I, every group that you're a part of. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so the 5th key, this is the slide I'm most excited about, is joining an experienced, vibrant, supportive, and knowledgeable mastermind group. And I'd like to say that our group practice success program is that 5th key. It is an amazing mastermind group. And I can say this with authenticity, that I would not have got to my success without observing, what Ken and Joe and other group practice owners have done. That is such tremendous value. It really is essential for your business to thrive. You can do it and you can maybe make it, but I can pretty much guarantee you won't make it with as much peace of mind, and you won't be as successful depending on what your goals are for success. But you have to have that support, and not only just the emotional support, which is key, but you have to have that real world knowledge from people that have really done this. I mean, we're not just sitting here talking at a college and lecturing, but we really do run these things day in and day out. We still do this. So it's essential for you to be having that kind of group if you want this kind of success. One of the big things I like to put out there, let's be honest, I mean, group ownership is not for the faint of heart. There really is these massive emotional tolls that it takes on us. I mean, somebody quits, or I don't know, you get a lawsuit, or there's just so much stuff that can happen.
A bad review.
What's that?
A bad review.
Yeah, a bad review on Yelp or something. So it's constant. So to have a team that you can just be connected with that gets you, I mean, it's so hard to put into words until you've experienced it. But I try to just want to get through my passion about that. trainings, articles, books. I mean, that's my world. I read every single thing I can find. I think I'm up to over 100 business books, guys. I've been keeping track. But it's not enough. Like, I mean, those books just don't speak to me the same way that other group practice owners speak to you. You have to have that circle and that wise, that sort of experienced real world wisdom is just, it's amazing what that can do to just learning, okay, this is how you really get, your Indeed ad up, or here's how you really, do a marketing strategy that really works, or here's how you really hire admin and weed out the candidates that are no good for you. Family, friends, and your solo therapist colleagues, I mean, they don't know what it's like. I mean, my wife is very supportive. She's awesome. But in compared to my group practice owner friends that really get this, I mean, it's just like, I found my people. It's an amazing component. And then you also get the technical skills. So not just the emotional piece. And then we've talked about this throughout this presentation, but group practice really is much more competitive now. I mean, you'll see group practices everywhere. So you can't just, I think in the old days when we started, it might have been easier. No one was doing it, but now it's like around every corner. So you have to have that competitive edge. You have to be looking at, what is sort of the best practices. I like to combine it, evidence-based therapy. Really, what does the evidence show for marketing? What does the evidence show for getting office space, negotiating leases, all that kind of stuff. And if you have a group of people that are experienced all over the country to be with you in this journey, it really is this mastermind concept that then everybody's elevated. And even if you didn't even want to be elevated, like it's just the whole culture makes the whole thing rise. So it's so hard for me to even talk about this because I get so excited and passionate. So we're going to introduce our group practice success program a bit more. But again, back to this idea that, we love what we do. We're group practice owners, but we also love coaching. We're very successful. I mean, it's kind of strange to say that, but we are very successful in what we do. We don't have to have this GPS program on the side, but we enjoy it. We really enjoy talking to other group practice owners. We really help lifting them up and doing a better job and emotionally doing better as well. So we're excited to kind of pass this on to you. We hope you guys will join the program. We'll tell you more about it, but I just want to put that out there. That is something that we love that kind of coaching process. Okay, so who's on board for this one? Is this, I think this is you, Joe?
Sure, I can talk about it. Yeah, so we've had this program started in the fall of 2017, and we've started 2 groups, and this is the last year that we're going to have the class open because we're going to reach our maximum of 20 people. So we have 4 openings left in the program. It's a 12-month program. After that, it goes to month, and there's quite a few aspects of it that we just want to highlight. One of the main parts of it is that we have a live event in the fall every year in October in San Diego. Tremendous bonding and connection, builds trust. You get incredible feedback. We all do presentations on different subjects and topics that people are interested in. And we also have a lot of fun and go out at night. Ernie always plans great events for us socially, including a great sailboat ride, among other things. But we created this because, as Ernie said, the 3 of us have been in a mastermind group together for 8 years, and we've just seen how it's changed our lives. I mean, it's not hyper exaggeration to say that, and we've seen other people where it's changed their lives incredibly, and we just wanted to share this model with other people because we do feel the pain of how hard it is to run a group practice successfully. But when you get to a certain point, it gets a lot easier, it gets a lot more fun, and your balance of life, personal and business life gets a lot more balanced. So, and one of the things I want to mention, Ernie, before we get to that, is we have an online forum, which pretty much goes crazy on a regular basis with like 50 posts. And when we first started, I remember saying, oh, well, I'll only be on there Monday through Friday. Now you find people posting answers at 2 a.m. on Sunday or the weekend. You don't have to do that. But the point is, when you have a problem or a challenge or a success that you want to share, somebody's going to respond to it every single day of the year. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. Cool. All right. So talk about our ideal candidate for this group. So our ideal candidate is that they really want significant increases in growth and profit, but not just money alone, also peace of mind, wanting more stability, more balance. So that's that's a big piece of who wants to join GPS. Open to learning, obviously. So we don't want people that are, defensive and they can't take feedback. Like, that's no fun. So we need them to be open to that, to getting good quality feedback from people that really know what it's like. So we don't do it in disrespectful ways or without really knowing what it's like. And then also people that are willing to share too. So it doesn't work if we're the only ones, helping and no one else is helping. We need this to be sort of a collaborative group where everybody's sharing, and they do. I mean, it's a pretty common thing, but just to kind of set the culture for you guys thinking about this program. It's not for people that are brand new to group practice. We want people that are sort of moderate, medium level, at least 3 therapists, that you see the value in not only the empathy, the validation that you could imagine you'd get from people that know exactly what it's like to be in your shoes, but that real life wisdom that I was kind of blabbering on about earlier, just that these are business owners just like you. They're across the country, but they have these same skill sets, they have the same challenges, same emotional pain, and you see the value in that. And they know the techniques and tactics that work well for them, and all of a sudden someone will post something, I'm like, that is awesome, and then you can implement it tomorrow. Someone wants to have fun and connect. So Joe's always reminding us about, hey, we got to make this fun. And it's like, this is so much fun. So we threw a few pictures up here for you guys to see, but it's just really neat to be connected with, colleagues that not only are therapists by trade, but also these, business owners that we didn't know what we were doing. And now we're there and we're on the front lines together. So I'll share more about that in a later slide, but yeah, that's the candidate we're looking for. And Ken, this is you.
Yeah, and then we just want to review that the members of our GPS program receive a 360 GPS group practice assessment where you let us know about your situation, your group, what you've developed, the number of clinicians, what you have in terms of admin, if any, what the challenges are in your community, what your strengths are, what your limiting beliefs are, etc. And we essentially do a deep dive into seeing really what needs to be changed or shifted in order to move forward for you. So we do a 360 assessment, so we really know what's happening in your group practice so that we can help you design a blueprint to move forward. You also get one-on-one coaching with experienced group practice owners with Joe and Ernie and I. So that is, I don't know, I just think that's particularly helpful. When you have someone out ahead of you, I know that I have certainly experienced that when I have someone out ahead of me and I get their wisdom and their guidance and their encouragement and their challenges. We have real world input and support from our seasoned group practice owners from all over the country, not only Joe and Ernie and I. We have really top-notch, ambitious, heart-centered people who are part of our membership program who continue to choose GPS year after year as the place to go and the tribe that helps them get the success and define the success that they want. And of course, they're in non-competing areas, but it's important for us that when we bring people on, that we aren't bringing someone who is across the street from the other member.
Yeah.
Because we want to know we have some kind of trade secrets or some ideas and principles that we want to make sure that people feel really free to share. So we're very careful about that. We also have a monthly live video conference call. We just finished earlier this morning, and it was so lively with great questions and things that we're helping solve problems with. And we celebrated several successes today. That was so fun, wasn't it, guys?
Yes.
The advances that everyone is making in the program. It's just really exciting to hear. We have a group practice building online forum that Joe mentioned before that is very lively. And we have several benefits of GPS.
Go back one.
What's that?
I'll go back to the benefits.
Yeah, there we are.
So the one thing you said is funny. This couldn't have been better scripted, but somebody today on our GPS call had done her own stats, and then she shared with everybody, which was so cool to hear as a coach. But she said since she's joined the group 2 years ago, she's had a 65% increase in revenue. And it was just like so amazing that this is someone that never would have tracked before coming to GPS, but now she knows her numbers. And then just seeing that kind of revenue increase, and that's not unusual. I think most people the first year were either, about 40%. One person was over 200%, kind of gross revenue increase from, we can't say for sure it was GPS, but it sure seemed like the timing was around the time they joined GPS. And some pretty amazing, elevations with revenue and profit. All right. Okay, so I could talk about San Diego. So one of the coolest things about the program, not just that it's all year long for 12 months, but the live event we think is like a huge part of it. We think it's like the jewel. And we do this in October, and these are some pictures of it. But it's such awesome bonding connection. I think you've heard that from me throughout this presentation of just really what it's like to connect with people socially. But not only that, we talk about business, the whole time, but very specific business about group practice, not just some random theory. But what are you doing? What are you doing? And sharing that, and it's such a fun experience. Eliminate the isolation. We have a lot of fun. We did the sailboat that Joe talked about. And that's become this tradition now. So every year that we do a relaunch, we bring in new members. Like Joe said, we're going to be capped at 20. But for the past people, they keep signing up and want to come again. And so we're doing this again in San Diego. Now we're making it starting on Wednesday. So we'll do kind of a Wednesday happy hour. Then we'll do dinners and lunches and then presentations during the day, either from me, Joe, or Ken. We're also bringing in some other presentations from some of the members to talk about what they're doing that's innovative. I'm not sure what else to say, except, this is one of the best experiences of my life, was doing these programs. And then being a coach is a pretty special experience. But when I had this personally for my own group practice, it again just elevates everything, because you're seeing, I keep observing Ken just going one more step. And I'm like, I never would have dreamed possible, the kind of stuff that I'm doing. And I guarantee you, I would not have done it without seeing it done, before me. And seeing it done without them killing themselves. Ken really does have a pretty good balance. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, group practice is so exciting. Ernie, I love to hear you talk because you're so lit up about it, right? Because really it scratches so many itches in us. We get to design and develop so many areas of our life. It's really a personal growth process, right? Where we get to grow personally, we get to design and develop a business, we get to design and develop a community, we get to design and develop a service that serves our community. It really, it keeps us thinking and alive about being really an impact on the world.
Yes.
More than I had before as a solo practitioner, that I felt like was doing good things and the way that I was doing it solo. That was a great time in my life. But what can happen now as a group practice owner and all the things that we get to impact by this sort of the design of a bigger service to the community is just really exciting to be a part of.
Yeah. And the connection that you get from this trip, there's something about it that really is, I use the word magical, because then the rest of the year we have this connection that you would not have gotten. The video calls are definitely key, but that live connection, the eating, the drinking, the talking, like all that just solidifies it. And then the group is just so much closer. We have such intimate sharing that we're doing on these posts about what we're really going through. And it's just such a cool part of it. I think you guys would all understand that as therapists, but it's just really neat to witness it.
And there's laughter and there are tears and everything in between, because you cannot do this practice without both of those, right? That we all laugh together at mistakes that we've made, things that we've tried to launch that failed, learning lessons that we've had, or personal issues we've had in our life that we're trying to break through. And we get to do that in a community. We get to talk about those things, so we don't feel like we're alone, or that we're going this just all by ourselves. That we have that group to be a part of and really connect with and get support from. It's so fantastic to be part of a business group that really is filled with heart-centered therapists, right?
Yeah, it is.
And then when we're talking about something about our P&L sheet or something like that, someone might offer something like, "Wash, it seems like you have a personal block. I wonder if that's a family of origin issue about the way that you talked about money or possibility or abundance versus scarcity." That's what we're talking about. And then we come back around to the P&L sheet for sure, right? But if you have those personal blocks, you're never going to sort of blossom the business that you want to. So it's a really fantastic group to be a part of.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, walk us through this one.
All right. Yeah. So if you're interested in applying for one of those 4 slots that we have left, we have a website, grouppracticesuccess.com, and there's a page where you can apply, and you click on the blue box to start the process. And there'll be some questions on there, questionnaire to fill out, and then we will review the questionnaires, first come, first serve. Thank you for your attention and time today on a Friday afternoon.
All right, thanks everyone.
Yeah. Okay. We'll help you enjoy the journey. Take care.
Bye now.